Hi, welcome to Saki Films. Today we'll be looking at my recent trip to Ireland. As this was my honeymoon, I didn't really film a behind the scenes vlog style video, but this is going to be just me going over a bunch of the photos I took and talking about the various cameras and film stocks I used, and some of the places we went. For 35mm, I brought my go-to travel camera, my Olympus OM-1, had the 50mm and a 70-210. Having these two lenses gave me a great option for focal lengths, as well as the camera itself just being super light and easy to use. For medium format, I brought my RB67. Even though it's the complete opposite and it's incredibly heavy and hard to lug around, it's the only medium format camera I have, and I was not passing up this opportunity to shoot it. We also brought our Pentax 17 for half frame. This is just such an easy one to grab. We took it with us everywhere we went and just grabbed a few pictures here and there. We only shot not even a full roll across the whole trip we were there. And it's just so light and easy and fun for creating those more personal memories. We arrived in Dublin after an overnight flight and immediately had to drive a car through rush hour. Luckily, I had driven on that side of the road before, but still a stressful way to start the trip. The next day, we toured Dublin Castle, the National Gallery, and the National Archaeological Museum, as well as just walked around the city and enjoyed all the Christmas decorations, as we had arrived just a few days before the holiday. For this, I loaded up some Aurora 800. I wanted those extra couple stops for the film, just so that I could shoot inside and around the museum with a little bit more ease. I also pretty much stuck to the 50mm as it opens pretty wide, and that was gonna be my best shot to get some of these pictures to actually come out. Overall, this is now my second roll of Aurora 800, and I think I'm doing something wrong. I never get great photos with this film. They always come back really grainy, either underexposed or a little overexposed. And the colors just always come out really weird. I have one set that I scanned myself and one set that was scanned by my lab for me. And the only photos that come out looking okay to me are ones in broad daylight. And for a film that the whole point is to shoot it in low light conditions, that's really frustrating. We then carried down the road to the Rock of Dunamis, I think is how it's pronounced. It's an old castle ruin out in the countryside, and it was magical. The fog was rolling in over the hills, and it was just a beautiful green Irish day. And we were walking around these magical ruins with a few other families were walking around in the area. And it was just so special to be there. That was what I was looking for in this trip. Another great thing about this stop is it was completely free. You could just park your car and walk up and explore. Obviously, this was the perfect location to shoot some medium format. So I grabbed some lomography Lady Grey and loaded up the RB67. Unfortunately, this was a mistake. It turns out my RB67, when the dark slide is in, does not lock. So you can still take pictures despite not exposing the film and advance right through the whole roll. And this is what I did. I did not know this issue. It had been locking previously for me. I don't know. So the photos I was so excited for with this beautiful castle space and the gray skies and the beautiful fog over the countryside, never got to see them. It's one of only a few rolls of black and white I even brought on the trip, which is something I really love to shoot. And wasting one entirely and wasting a location was really frustrating. It was Christmas Eve, so I was really trying not to let it get me down. But it was really, really maddening. Anyway, I finished off that roll of Aurora 800, as I said, and I'd say I got about 12 kind of personal keepers. Nothing really amazing to write home about, but that's okay. We then carried on to the Rock of Carnegie and Hoare Abbey. Here, I made yet another mistake. I loaded up my favorite black and white film, Rollei Retro 400S, put it in my Olympus, was walking down the path, taking beautiful pictures of this castle up on the hill that we couldn't get into, and then walked down and there's the broken down abbey out in the field. Beautiful, amazing, wonderful scenery. My wife got some amazing pictures there. And yeah, did not load the film on properly and it was not going. I got to kind of the end of our walk and I was like, I've taken about 38 photos. That feels, maybe I've maxed this out. And so I kept trying to take photos and suddenly I was at 40, 42. It's like, Knew what was happening, opened the back of the camera, film lead had not caught, and I did not do a good enough job making sure. I bite myself with this all the time. I know I should, you know, make sure it catches, get my just 36 exposures, but sometimes I get 38 and that feels really good. And so I always chase just putting in the leader, just the minimum amount. And yeah, after this have decided no longer doing that, actually gonna load my film properly. But yeah, so we got back to the car and I realized this. So I fed the leader in properly and just quickly ran back and shot my photos. My best guess as to why almost every single one came out awful is I either did not adjust my ISO down from 800 to 400. Still, one stop doesn't seem that drastic, but I'm just guessing the really bright sky with the really shadowed landscape caused these issues. We then carried on to Cobh and we walked a little bit around and then called it a night. Woke up Christmas morning, they had a beautiful breakfast for us. We walked around the sleepy little town, and I got a few photos there. And yeah, for whatever reason here they came out. So again, I think it might have been something with the lighting with the castle, or I don't know. And yeah, so then Christmas Day we had to keep moving, so we went down to the town of Killarney. There is an ancient stone circle dated to between 3,000 and 5,000 years old, which is just so awesome to see. And of course it's it's in this old farm field, and you got to kind of climb over a fence to get there. There's signs saying you can do it. And then there's a cow field, and everyone online was like, oh, it's pretty muddy, be careful. And we're like, yeah, it's pretty muddy, but we want to do it. And we got soaked up to our knees in a mix of cow manure and mud and wet and gross. Luckily, it happened to both of us, so we could kind of laugh about it. But yeah, that was the experience walking to the stone circle. Once you were there, it was fine and on pretty dry ground. And I finished off that roll of Retro 400S, once again, getting awful results. I also carried the Mamiya in here with me. And I remembered to remove the dark slide, and I loaded up some Phoneix 200. I've shot one roll, I should say, of Phoneix 200 in 35mm. And initially I did not like it, but I have come to really love a lot of those photos. So I was very excited when they announced it in 200, get rid of a little bit of that grain, and everyone's example pictures online looked amazing. I think I got a little water in my roll because I was splashing around and it was starting to drizzle a little bit as I was loading it up. So I think that accounts for some of the kind of wonky colors on some little drip spots on the film and stuff, just almost like a little film soup accidentally. And then on top of that, I just don't think it worked with these colors. It doesn't have like a very natural green supposedly in its makeup chemically, the film. And so shooting something that is entirely green with little bits of gray, maybe not the best choice, but I wanted kind of an old gritty feel for these photos, and I think they're okay. I don't love any of them, but I don't hate any of them. Future Everett here. I was way too negative in this video. I feel like I needed some more space from the trip. Definitely have some shots and a few rolls of film that got messed up. That is really disappointing. But yeah, I'm much happier on them now, but I've already recorded the whole video and I'm in the process of the final edit, and so I don't want to change it now, but just know that I like them more now. We then went down the hill to Carnegie's Castle, which is in the same town there of Killarney. And I finished up the roll of Retro 400S, which I got from my 36 exposures, 2, maybe 3 keepers, which is really frustrating. And I also shot a little bit more of my Phoneix. And then I loaded up some Ektar 100, which again is a film I've only shot once before, which you'll notice this is a recurring theme with me. Shoot stuff you don't really know super well, get disappointed with the results. So I loaded up Ektar 100, which the last time I shot it, kind of similar to Phoneix, I initially hated my photos, and then they've kind of really grown on me. This super saturated, aggressive color look. I had shot it in the desert previously, And so I thought, oh, great, I'll bring it here, and it's gonna make these vibrant greens really pop and just look amazing. And I do think some of these shots look really great. I think other ones, the vibrant look almost feels like I, was editing it on my phone in the early 2000s. We then carried on through Killarney National Park, and this was one of my favorite places of the whole trip. The views in these mountains were incredible. It was a wonderful sunny day, Christmas Day, so no traffic, not too many people out and about. And we were able to go to these pull-offs and just capture these amazing views. I finished up the roll of Phoneix 200, looking over a valley, and then continued to shoot some Ektar. We even stopped at a little waterfall and walked up the trail to go see the waterfall. Just a beautiful, amazing bit of nature, and was so excited to be there. From that roll of Phoneix, I ended up getting, I'd say, 3 to 6 keepers, depending on how much the kind of water damage bothers me. Depends on the day, and so we're either 3 or 6. We then carried on for our last stop of the day, which was Ballybunion. It's an old castle tower on the edge of some cliffs, right just south of the Cliffs of Moher, in the town of Ballybunion, and that was really cool. Being in this kind of empty town, being Christmas, it's a beach town, not too many people around, and then having the stone tower right up on the edge of the cliff and views out over the ocean was really awesome. From my roll of Ektar, I got about 20 photos that I'd consider keepers that I really like. And yeah, I think we're finally starting to get to a point where I'm happier with my results, even though I do think some of my Ektar photos were too punchy and too saturated. We then carried on to Galway, where we just spent the 2 nights and enjoyed taking it a little slower for a minute. And while we were there, we just took the bus into town. It was St. Stephen's Day, and so we were able to walk around the Christmas markets and stuff, and all we brought was the Pentax. Got some fun photos, did some shopping, enjoyed some food, and just had a nice, relaxing day. We then carried up to Donegal, even further to the north. It's a very small town right on the river, and we got there well before our check-in time at our hotel, and so we went and we walked along a beach. In the Olympus, I loaded up some Portra 400, which was weirdly my first time ever shooting this film, and the results were fine. Again, I think if I was a little more comfortable with the stock and knew what I was doing with it, maybe I would have liked some more of my photos, but overall I was quite pleased with it. And then in the Mamiya, I loaded up some Kodak Gold 200, just kind of a standard. This is a film I know, and I, again, was really pleased with some of the photos I got. At the beach, there was kind of some farmland leading up to it, and we were able to walk back and see some cows and some horses, which was a lot of fun. And then I walked down the beach, and it was a little cold, so my wife stayed back, and I got some pictures out over the beach, and then hiked up the dune, and you can see back over across the cow pastures and stuff. It was really just a fun place to be. We then went back into the town of Donegal, and walked around for a little bit. The castle was right up on the edge of the river, which was really cool, and some old churches, and just a really fun little town square that was pretty lively despite being right after the holidays, with a lot of people doing Christmas shopping. From my roll of Portra, I got about 20 photos I'd consider keepers, which again is pretty solid. And then with my Kodak Gold, I got 8 out of 10 to come out really good, which I was really happy about. Kodak Gold, I got 9 out of 10 that I'd consider to be relative keepers, and definitely photos I'm very happy with. While in Donegal, we pulled out all the stops, stayed in the tower suite of Loftus Castle. It was truly awesome to just get to experience this place and the history. It was amazing. Everyone there was so friendly and so helpful. We really spoiled ourselves. We went to fancy dinners, we went whiskey tasting, we had an afternoon tea, we went and walked the grounds. The first day there, while we walked around, I loaded up some Kodak Gold in both the 35mm and my medium format. We were able to walk through these back gardens and out in front of the castle and get some views up at where we were actually staying, which was super cool. And I got a lot of photos that I thought were really fun. Once again, the lush greens were just incredible to look at and came out so well on film. The next day we then walked up to the lake and walked around the edge for a little bit. I still had Kodak Gold in my 35mm, but for the medium format, I loaded up some Lomo 800. And again, here, I was a little disappointed. I rushed my scanning because I was just kind of tired, and this was the last roll I did. And so there's a little too much dust on a lot of the photos, which maybe I can clean up in the future. Maybe I can't. The photos themselves anyway, I don't think were anything amazing. But I did get a few that I really liked. The Mamiya just doesn't open up that wide, and so I needed the 800 ISO film, but even with that, it was still a pretty overcast and dark day, and being in the forest really was struggling for light, and having Kodak Gold 200 in 35mm wasn't, you know, that great a choice either. But it was still just a great day to walk around. In the end, I got about 20 keepers from that roll of gold in the 35mm, which is, again, pretty solid. As for the medium format, I'd say I got about 5 keepers or so, but for whatever reason with this roll, I only got 7 photos back, which is kind of strange. Not exactly sure what happened there. I'm pretty sure I took dark slide out, but it's always possible I forgot. So after that, we packed up, drove through Northern Ireland back to Dublin, and flew home. It was sad to go. We had such an amazing trip, and it's truly an amazing country with some awesome people and wonderful food, and I really hope to be going back one day. So thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I'll be back in about 2 weeks with my next video. In the meantime, stay safe.